Hi, I'm Paul Guppy with the Washington Policy Center, and this is our regular weekly update of what's going on in the legislature and issues that we are working on. But actually, our first issue isn't in the legislature right now. It is the capital gains income tax that the legislature passed last year that we have long argued is unconstitutional in our state. And in fact, Jason Mercier is one of the leading independent legal experts in doing research on this issue. And there was a court case, as you would expect, because this law goes directly against our state constitution. And just last week, a judge in Douglas County ruled that, no surprise to us, this this law is in fact unconstitutional. And in fact, the judge specifically cited Washington Policy Center research, the survey that we did of all 49 states and the District of Columbia, the information we got from the IRS regarding factual assessment of whether a capital gains tax is an income tax, number one, and number two, whether that kind of income tax is unconstitutional in our state. The judge agreed with that. To us, it's very clear. Bob Ferguson, who's the Attorney General for our state, argued strongly on the other side. He also, we take this as a backwards compliment, the Attorney General asked the judge to throw out all of the Washington Policy Center research that had been submitted to the court. The judge, fortunately, did not agree with that. He said it was independent, objective information, which it is, and that was kept in the case, and then we just got a decision, and that law was struck down. Next step is for it to go to the appeals court. And of course, we know the proponents of an income tax will want to take it to the Supreme Court and get a ruling there. So knowing that objective facts and sweet reasoning are not always persuasive with judges, we are also working on local income tax bans at the county and city level. And this is to accomplish two things. One, on the policy level, to protect citizens from an unfair income tax. And secondly, to once again demonstrate the unpopularity of an income tax in our state. So far, 11 counties and 16 cities have passed bans on a local income tax. And we know this is important for showing both our elected leaders in the legislature and possibly Bob Ferguson himself may get this message, but more importantly, to show to judges that the public really is concerned about this issue and that they want a fair ruling on it. So we'll continue to follow that as it goes to the next level in the courts. The next issue that we're working on that affects everybody in the state is ending restrictive COVID mandates, the vaccine mandate, mask mandates on the general public, safely reopening schools. And we have had quite a bit of success on this. And of course, we know that the political situation across the state has changed, across the country rather, has changed. The governor, I think, is concerned about upcoming elections later this year. But we don't get engaged in the campaign or political process. We have argued consistently on a policy and scientific level that these mandates are not necessarily effective at fighting the spread of disease. And that's just information that's come out. We are also concerned about the coercive aspect of these policies. So it's one thing for the state to have good public health information. That's good. People should be informed and make decisions. But we don't necessarily think that a mandate is the right tool that the government should use in order to try to force people to do what the governor wants them to do. And we think there's just limited effectiveness in that. And the protests that we had against masking children and vaccine mandates in the workplace are an indication of how people push back when you try to force them to do something. So separate from the science of it, we just question whether mandates are a good way to go whenever the government is trying to persuade the public about a public health issue. So we'll continue to work on that. Next is another thing that we pushed for a long time is emergency powers reform in our state. Something kind of comical happened early Friday morning. The Democrats in the legislature brought up an emergency powers bill, SB 5909. We have argued against this bill because it does basically nothing. There are better bills that would impose a 60-day or 30-day review period on any future emergency. Most other states have that. Emergencies can continue, but they would need the approval of the legislature. This bill doesn't do that. And we think that our explanation about how weak this bill is possibly led to its undoing. It was brought up at 1 o'clock in the morning on early Friday morning, and the bill was pulled at 1:36 after barely half an hour of debate. We're not sure why, but we do know that this effort has failed for the moment. That means that either the legislature will try to bring up an improved emergency powers reform bill, which we think would be a good idea, or they've just decided to drop the issue altogether and to try to get through to the end of the session without dealing with emergency powers at all, in which case the current law will stay the same. So we'll continue to follow that and see what happens. Another issue we've looked at is tax relief. We have strongly pushed for returning at least part of the $10 billion surplus that the state has to the people in the form of a property tax cut, sales tax cut. There are different ways that can be done. Instead, what's being offered by the legislature, by the majority, is a 3-day sales tax holiday on certain purchases only over Labor Day weekend, plus free parking passes at state parks. So most people think that's pretty ridiculous. One quip we heard was, the legislature has a $10 billion surplus and all we're going to get are free parking passes. That just doesn't seem fair, doesn't seem to make sense. But that is the level of so-called tax relief that the legislature is looking at now. And again, we're not sure whether those ideas are going to survive to the end of the session. We'll continue to track it. And then lastly is we are promoting a new study that has come out regarding we're calling it the failed Seattle soda tax. This tax was passed with great fanfare a couple of years ago. It was supposed to fight obesity and promote public health. It turns out that it didn't do any of those things. So twice now we have worked against successfully imposing a soda tax on the entire state. We will continue to promote this research because massively increasing the cost of a particular consumer item is doing nothing for public health, but it is hurting low-income people, but primarily convenience stores, small businesses. And we just think increasing a consumer tax is the opposite way that we should go, whether it's on soda or a sugar tax or whatever it is. And this tax was promoted as being to fight obesity, and it doesn't work. So we think that we should take a different approach on that. We have prevented it from being imposed statewide, and we'll continue to do that. And with that, I'll just wrap up with some of our general activities. We continue to have good traffic at washingtonvotes.org, our free website that monitors the legislature. We do twice weekly media advisabilities about what's happening in the legislature. We have record amounts of media coverage for our work. Our research analysts are doing interviews all the time. We have a lot of activity online. In addition, we are producing our own programming with Washington Policy Center on the go sessions online, and then also Policy Perspectives, which is another show that we've started. And we are communicating directly with people about what's going on in our state, no longer only relying on the media to pick up our work. So we're doing both. We work with the media and we're producing our own programming. And lastly, is we've done a couple of good YP young professional events in Wenatchee and Tri-Cities. We have great Pillar Society events coming up later in March, and we're getting back to in-person events. We're excited about that, and we're planning for our 2 annual awards dinners that we'll be holding in Bellevue and Spokane in the fall. So that's the update. And if you like this video, please share it with your friends. And as always, we appreciate our thousands of donors and supporters and WPC members that we have across the state. It's your contributions that makes our work possible. So again, thank you.